Today, I'd like to describe for you Australia's next great copper region, which is the Curnamona Province, located in northeastern South Australia. Now, the story started about 1.5 to 1.6 billion years ago when a major volcanic belt ran down the eastern margin of what was then the Proto-Australian continent. Now, this volcanic event was responsible for the formation of nearly all the major copper deposits in Australia, such as Mount Isa, Ernest Henry, up here in the Mount Isa Inlier, plus the Olympic Dam, Carapateen, Prominent Hill down here in the Gawler Craton, plus several associated major lead zinc silver deposits, namely Century, Mount Isa, and of course the iconic Broken Hill. Now, based on the proximity, the similar volcanic history and geology, one would expect that such major copper deposits should also occur in the Curnamona Province. And in fact, Havilah's exploration over the years has demonstrated very widespread and substantial copper mineralisation in the Curnamona Province. And this indicates that the big copper deposits are likely to occur, but they are probably yet to be fully revealed because of the early stage of the exploration in this area, plus the limited amount of drilling. And in the next few slides, I'll present some of the evidence for what I'm saying. The first key bit of evidence is the Calaro deposit, which is one of Australia's larger undeveloped open pit copper deposits with a very respectable 0.81% copper equivalent ore reserve grade. It contains a JORC resource of over 1.1 million tonnes of copper, 3.1 million ounces of gold, and 23,000 tonnes of cobalt. And Havilah was able to use the excellent drilling data generated by the earlier major explorers such as Placer, Newcrest, and MIM to develop its own conceptual geological model which guided its resource delineation drilling, and which ultimately led to this block model here. Comprehensive studies by Oz Minerals and BHP during 2023 demonstrated a robust open pit copper gold project with no fatal flaws. And in fact, BHP's financial model was able to extend the Calaro open pit mine life to more than 20 years. And that was achieved by reoptimising the open pit at higher metal prices. And the remarkable thing about Calaro is that its real size is as yet undetermined. We really don't know how big Calaro is. All of our resource drilling to date is located here, shown by these yellow dots, lying inside a potentially conceptual open pit design, and the mining lease shown by the white boundary here. So the Calaro ore body is essentially undrilled to the west. It's open to the west, it's open to the east, again undrilled. It's also open down dip on every drill section line, so it hasn't been closed off at depth. Furthermore, up here in the hanging wall, we've found economic grades of mineralisation in a separate horizon, which we've never ever followed up with any further drill holes. And in this area here in the footwall, we find excellent breccia-style network vein copper mineralisation, which we haven't drilled below 200 metres. And lying just outside the western end of the mining lease is this Homestead prospect, which is basically a faulted segment of West Calaro, where we have some good ore grade copper gold intercepts, and the strike length of the Homestead prospect is certainly sufficient to host an ore body of the size and dimensions of Calaro. So all in all, a lot of upside potential, and at this stage, Calaro could still well turn into one of those major Australian copper deposits, as located in the other nearby provinces. The Calaro is also quite remarkable. It's not your normal copper gold deposit because it contains quite a number of critical minerals in potentially economic levels. And to date, because of the lack of metallurgy, none of this potential upside has been factored into any of our economic models. For example, there's abundant cobalt, and in fact we have a JORC inferred resource of 23,200 tonnes of cobalt, which is contained entirely within pyrite. And if one produces a pyrite concentrate during the flotation process, then it is possible to actually generate a cobalt concentrate. There's quite abundant molybdenum in certain parts of the ore body, which is affectionately called moly, and it frequently occurs as molybdenite or molybdenum sulfide intergrowths with the main copper sulfide mineral, which is chalcopyrite. There's quite widely distributed rare earths as well, which are high in the valuable magnet rare earths, and they occur in both the oxidized zone and down in the primary sulfide, generally associated with areas of more intense fracturing and faulting. Our research with the University of South Australia has shown that the chief rare earth mineral is bastnasite, the white mineral here, and it is potentially recoverable as a separate mineral concentrate during the processing. And for good measure, there's even economic levels of tungsten up to 3,320 ppm in the very easternmost drill hole here at Calaro. This image is of interest. It shows the resource, the gold saprolite resource in yellow, the native copper gold resource here in pink, and the base of oxidation is basically the base of the native copper zone. It then goes down the transitional chalcocite zone, shown in green, before going to the primary sulfide ore body comprised of mostly chalcopyrite and pyrite, which is the bulk of the ore. Now, in the wider Curnamona Province, away from Calaro, as shown by these 10, 20, 30 kilometre radius lines, we have numerous copper prospects. And on this aeromagnetic image, we've identified 8, and in fact they're described briefly here with the relevant ASX announcement, where Havilah has achieved multiple highly significant and potentially ore-grade copper-gold drill intersections, along with variable amounts of critical minerals. So there is very widespread copper mineralisation, and in general, our exploration model is following the Central African Copper Belt style of mineralisation, where the copper is contained within a particular reactive carbonate-rich horizon, which runs around a major redox boundary, bound between more oxidised rocks in the footwall here and the cores of these domes, and less oxidised rocks out here in the hanging wall. And the whole area has been folded into a whole series of domes and basins, cut by numerous faults, which are very important for the plumbing of the hydrothermal solutions, and of course granites, which are often located in the cores of domes. So the whole area around Calaro, in this particular part of the Curnamona Province, you could look at as almost like a copper deposit incubator. And within this copper deposit nursery, really our drilling is at an early stage at each one of these prospects, and with further drilling, these infant copper deposits could actually turn into major deposits. Certainly each of the prospects has sufficient strike extent, sufficient area to actually, if fully drilled, to turn into a deposit at least as big as Calaro. So all in all, it's a highly prospective area with a lot of copper mineralisation, and given all the opportunities there, exploration is very much at an early stage. As an example, I'll just briefly mention the Urinella Dome. Imagine it's like a great big turtle back with the rocks dipping off in all directions. And we have this particular zone here, highly enriched copper gold zone, we believe, which runs around the whole 20 kilometre or so circumference of the dome. Now, drilling last year returned an excellent high-grade copper result of 8 metres of 4.6% copper plus gold here, within this enriched zone between these two white lines. And there's only a couple of other holes which show this, one 2 kilometres away on the other side of the dome, and a BHP hole up here. And you would think with all this drilling, you see these drill holes, that there'd be nothing left to discover. But in fact, it's very easy to miss this enriched zone. For example, if the hole is too high up, you either get leached prospective unit or you only hit the footwall. If the hole is too far outboard like this, you don't actually hit the prospective horizon. So it's actually very easy to miss this zone, even though it runs for the 20 odd kilometres we believe. And the hole has to be very carefully located to actually hit it. And this gives you an idea of the potential scale of the prospects we're looking at, and the potential for discovery of large copper gold deposits, and in this case here potentially quite rich ones if this supergene enrichment extends all the way around the dome. So that's just one example. And the final point I'd like to mention is not a technical one, but it relates to ESG, which is very important from a mining development and financing point of view. The Curnamona Province, and in particular Calaro and our tenements, are located in the low sovereign risk northeast and South Australia, which it so happens has mandatory and strictly enforced best practice ESG regulations. All our tenements in Calaro lie in proximity to the main east-west highway linking Adelaide to Sydney, as well as the Transcontinental Railway line which follows it. We're not far from Broken Hill, which is a well-established mining town with a skilled workforce. And potentially we have access to renewable energy sources from an existing wind farm and solar farm, both of which are located very close to Broken Hill. And the Calaro project itself and a future mining development there is extensively de-risked because Havilah actually owns the surrounding pastoral property, so there are no land access issues. We have a granted mining lease and an existing signed native title mining agreement. So the mining tenements and all the surrounding exploration licences are 100% owned by Havilah with no legacy royalties or other encumbrances on them. And we're working in outback pastoral country out here, which has no particular conservation value and presents no insurmountable environmental or cultural impediments to mining. So all in all, it's a very good place to develop a mine from the point of view of being able to finance it, the low risk, and for the mining development aspects. And for more information, please go to our website, check our ASX announcements, and while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our mailing list to receive regular updates that we send around to our shareholders and friends. And finally, I should mention the ore reserves here and mineral resources, which this presentation is based on, which are all published. And finally, the cautionary incompetent person statement.